Welcome to the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Doby. Join Jason as he explores the many ways to unlock personal growth, mindfulness, and spiritual transformation. So now, please welcome the host of Transformative Pathways, Jason Doby.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jason Doby, founder of Transformative Pathways Life Coaching. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we jump in, I want to tell you about something I think you're really going to want to check out. It's my free 5-minute stress test that I just launched a few weeks ago. If you've been feeling off lately, stuck in your head, tense, or like you're snapping at people for no reason, this will help you get some quick clarity on what's actually going on underneath the surface. It only takes 5 minutes, and by the end of it, you'll have a clearer sense of what you need right now to feel more calm, steady, and like yourself again. Simply click the link in the show notes to check it out at any time. All right, now let's get into today's episode. The topic for today is the ongoing journey, subconscious healing, trauma, and the power of feeling it all, with our guest, Sharice Tareva, who is joining us today from New Jersey. Sharice is a rebirthinator, empowerment coach, trauma mama, and emotional doula. Her clients call her trauma mama because of her deep care and safety she brings to the healing space. She's known for holding women with compassion as they face their darkest wounds and for helping them step into the light on the other side. Born into 3 generations of trauma and forced into human sex trafficking at the age of 19, Sharice's path has been anything but easy. But her resilience, her truth, and her heart have turned that pain into profound purpose. Through her own journey of healing, grief, and personal rebirth, Sharice not only initiated her own transformation, but has since helped countless women do the same. She guides women in reclaiming their truth, transmuting trauma, and embodying authentic self-expression. She's passionate about subconscious healing, rebirthing work, and reminding others that healing is not a linear path, it's a sacred one. Today, she's here to share her story, her wisdom, and her voice, and I know this conversation will resonate deeply with anyone who's ever felt broken, silenced, or unsure if healing is really possible. Sharice, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Wow, that intro made me a little bit emotional.
Oh, it's amazing. You're an amazing woman. You have an amazing story. I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm ready.
Yeah, amazing. So great to see you as always. And I guess
Yes.
to start things off, Sharice, do you want to share a little bit about your personal story and what led you to where you are today?
Sure. As you mentioned, I was forced into trafficking when I was 19. I had a young man pretend to be my boyfriend, and then later forced me into trafficking. And I wasn't doing it very long, but it was long enough. It doesn't matter the amount of time I was there, it was traumatic. It could have been a day, right? It was traumatic. And from there, I just carried around a lot of shame and guilt in my body, and I didn't want to tell anybody about the things that I did. I thought that people would think I was dirty. I thought I felt dirty, me, myself. Yeah, there just was a lot of weight that I carried on my shoulders from that. And as I grew older, I found out about some of the SA and ST that my mom and my mom experienced, and I started to connect the dots. I was like, oh, wait a minute. No wonder I was SA'd when I was a child. No wonder I was able to be forced into human sex trafficking. Like, look what my mom went through, and I was in her womb, and look what my mom went through, and I was also in her womb at one point. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense that I went through all of that because nobody ever stopped. And it's not that I'm like, oh, they didn't do their job. Nah, they did the best that they could with the tools that they had. And I am aware of all of this trauma, and it's my responsibility now to look back and go, okay, cool. They went through X, Y, and Z. How can I shift that narrative? And how can I get the cycle to stop with me and end with me and not perpetuate that forward to my children when I have children? So when I learned about their SA and their ST, like I became obsessed with learning about just generational trauma and how the subconscious mind works. And that's kind of how I got here. So I turned my pain into my power. And I just said this on another episode recently this week. Parts of me understand that because of the things I went through, I sit in the seat that I sit in now. And I'm grateful and I love my life and I wouldn't change it. And also, nobody wants to be trafficked. I wish my mom and my mom didn't experience the SA and the ST that they did. So there's like a duality dance in it. But again, just turning my pain into my power and helping other women do the same.
That's amazing, Sharice. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Powerful. And for those people that don't know, like, how would you explain generational trauma? What is that?
I would say generational trauma is trauma that is inherited either in your bloodline or by you growing up in an environment where you didn't feel safe, or for example, my grandparents grew up in survival. Their entire life was based on making the bills, not being emotionally intelligent, just having enough, making sure their kids were fed and taken care of, and their children picked up certain traits from experiencing that with them. And again, they did the best that they could with the tools that they had, and they just didn't have any tools. So, because they grew up in this hostile and volatile environment, when my mom and her siblings had children, they exhibited certain characteristics that their parents pushed onto them, and without even knowing, 90% of the time, well, 95% of the time, it could be just by a feeling, it could be by something that was said, it could be by energy in the room, and they passed that on to my generation and all of my cousins. And me and all of my cousins are like, oh yeah, no, we gotta, that we're not perpetuating that. There's a lot of trauma and we get to talk about it, and unfortunately, most of the adults don't want to talk about it, but we do. So,
Mhm.
whether they're involved in the conversation or not, we're committed to healing that generational trauma. And I have women that come into my program every day and they're like, oh, my mom used to trigger warning abuse me, or my mom used to verbally abuse me. And that's generational trauma too. And like she picked that up from somewhere. Where did she get that? She probably got that from her parents. And she thought
Mhm.
it was okay because that's all she experienced. So there's so much generational trauma. I had one client that her mom just was not open to expressing herself at all, and she would shut down. So when my client came to her and told her something about her being SA'd, she blamed her daughter. And it was like, wait, what? How do you blame your daughter for that? And it's like, that happened to her. She experienced that when she was SA'd. Her mom blamed her and just disregarded her feelings and made it about her dressing a certain way. So there's so many layers to generational trauma.
Right. So really like breaking the cycle of generational trauma is just like, like being the one that breaks the cycle that's not going to carry it forward. I think I understand what you're saying now. And that could show up, generational trauma could show up in many, many, many
Oh,
forms.
so many forms. It just doesn't have to be in the sense of SA. I mean, that's heavy in my program, but it doesn't have to be just in that. It could be arguing. I have a young lady that wants to work with me, and their generational traumas, they don't talk. They argue and they yell, and it's like raging. And she doesn't want to continue that. She doesn't want to communicate in that way. She wants to learn different ways to communicate, and she also wants to set boundaries with her father that yells at her all the time when she's just simply trying to have a conversation.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I remember I noticed that once something that came up for me was just when I had kids, just in the way that I talked to my kids. I remember one day I would just be reacting and talking to my kids. And one day I just said like, wait a minute, where is that coming from? But it was
Hmm.
just like the way that my parents talked to me or my aunts and uncles used to talk to me or just what I knew from growing up. But I would just automatically be saying these things. And then one day I was just like, I don't want to say that stuff. So I just had to be, aware. And then I guess, kind of break the cycle. So that's,
Hmm. It's it's difficult when you grow up in an environment and that's your normal. Like that was normal for you, right? You didn't think anything of it. That was your baseline. And
Right.
then you grow as a person and you're doing this beautiful work with the men in your program and in the world, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not normal. That's not okay. And I think it's beautiful that we have the amount of access we have nowadays, and so many people are wanting to like end the cycles, and there's so many black sheep. It's like a thing now, and people are like, yeah, I don't even talk to my family anymore. And we come from a day and age, like at least my generation, where that wasn't a thing. You just dealt with it. You just like, oh, that's just how they are. Forgive them and move on. And it's like, no, we can have agency and autonomy and say that I decide to not have this person in my life because they're abusive or they trigger all of my wounds. Like, it's okay. And I love the movement that is happening around us. It's just so beautiful to experience.
Yeah. What do you think it is that's sparking that movement? Like, is this something that's been happening for a long time, or people are breaking the cycle, or is it
Oh.
something that's really kind of like coming out right now in our generation?
I think people are just becoming more aware and conscious. And I think, I'm sounding a little woo woo, but I think the vibration of the planet, the frequency is rising, and we're just moving into a new timeline, and people just aren't having it anymore. I think that they're able to see it now in their own children. And like I said, the access of the internet, and it's just in your face. So back then they didn't have this. They didn't have, Instagram or YouTube, and everybody thought it was normal. And that saying, what happens in this house stays in this house, was a real thing. And now people are on the internet and they're like, yeah, no, what happens in this house doesn't stay in this house. Like, speak your truth. So I just think that it's a mixture of the consciousness rising, internet access, like the amount that we can consume, and the consciousness rising also.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. There's like a mass
Mhm.
awakening happening. People are waking up.
Mhm.
This is rising. And yeah, don't
Mhm.
be afraid to go too woo woo on the show. You can go as
Oh,
woo as you want.
yay. Yay.
Um, I guess my next question, Sharice, is you said that, healing from that traumatic past, is that something that you did on your own? And what was it that sparked your healing journey initially?
No, not even. I no. I had support. Um, what sparked it? Okay. So this one situation is coming to my mind. Excuse me. I was dating a guy back when I was working in the poker room, and this guy was just no good for me. It was clear. He was abusive mentally, emotionally, not physically, but it doesn't matter. He was abusive across the board. And we broke up, and I was like losing my mind over this man. And so much so that at the time I had a life coach, and she had asked me to write this list of things that both of my parents did that affected me. So, like a clarity conversation. And initially, I wrote down all the things like that when my dad didn't pick me up when I was younger, when he ignored me, all the instances. And I did the same for my mom. And then I wrote, when you did this, it made me feel. And long story short, my dad had a situation where somebody almost robbed him, and I was like, okay, I need to have this conversation with him now. All of these like synchronicities were happening at the same time, and I pulled up on him and I like told him all these things, and he just started sobbing. And I think that was such a catalytic moment in my healing journey, because not only was I heard, but my inner child was like, oh, that's not actually what happened. I was seeing it through my 4-year-old lens and my 7-year-old lens and my 9-year-old lens and my teenage lens. And he had like real live adult stuff going on that weren't excuses, but we we like met in the middle, and it was like we had an understanding, and that kind of like propelled me into my healing journey. Like I said, I had a life coach at that time, and I initially was just looking for like a nutrition coach, and I bumped into this young lady, Carla Chin, and I still love her to this day. And this was like, I don't know, 2009 maybe. And she propelled me on my journey of healing. And I just did all the things that, people like that are trendy and popular now, like all the sound bowl healings and the meditation. Like I was doing that shit way back when, and the book clubs and just being in community and circles with women, and having that amount of support is what got me to where I'm at now. Somebody asked me the other day, like, what advice would you have for somebody that's moving through anything you move through? And it's like, get support, because there's no way that you could do it on your own. That's a hyper independence, is a trauma response. And, I thought that for a very long time that I was okay. Even after the trafficking, I had went to therapy. I had went to quite a few therapists, and I had to stop because it was just re-traumatizing me and having me relive the situation. And these women had no idea what I was talking about. I was telling them, yeah, I was trafficked. And they were like, trafficked? And I was like, yeah, trying to like break it down to them in layman's terms so they could understand. And it just went over their head. And it was more so I felt like I was being interviewed about it versus me having therapy. So the support, and I say the support of people that have gone through similar things as you is so important, because how are you going to hold space for me if you don't know what this feels like?
Yeah, I think that's really powerful and really important. And having support, I kind of started my own healing journey on my own for about 10 years. And I started off in some different groups, like I joined a meditation group and some group therapy things. And then I read books on my own. But then I worked with my first life coach a couple of years ago in a program called Living with Soul, which was like a spirituality based, a self-development thing. And it was a 12-week program. And the amount of healing and growth I had in that time, like, supersedes what I did on 10 years on my own.
Mm, that because you're in a container where you can be seen and held, and you're not spinning your wheels by yourself. You have somebody to bounce
Yeah,
these things off of, and that can see things that you just don't have access to.
yeah, exactly. And someone kind of
Beautiful.
guiding you in the right direction.
Yeah, it's
That was
beautiful.
amazing. And I finished that 12-week program, and I actually stayed on, ended up working with her for, how long was it? Like 10 months I worked with her, because I stayed on as support for for men's group, because she broke her group into male and female. So I stayed on for 2 extra rounds, just to be support and slack and show up at the weekly calls. So it was
hmm
amazing. So it
I,
worked out amazing for me.
I think that extra support that you got is so necessary. It's something that I do in my program, RIA, and I did that also with my life coach. When our program was done, I was like, cool, how do we keep going? Because, like, cool, mine was a 12-week program too, but like, I still need help. Like, I don't, we're at a different level in my life, but there are still things that I could use support with. And I think it's important. Like I tell the women in Maria, I have you in a container for 13 weeks, but then you get another 3 months for free to integrate, because the first 13 weeks is an unmasking, it's an unveiling. It
Yeah.
is you meeting, certain versions of yourself that you may have suppressed for years. And now that you've met yourself, like now you get to integrate, and like how dare I throw you back into the world without a safe space to like process everything that we just went through in the 13 weeks. I think it's so important.
It's amazing. It's incredible how it happened too, because I wasn't even seeking a life coach. I didn't even know life coaching was a thing.
Me
And
neither.
I followed this person on Instagram, and I commented on one of her posts about, trusting your soul or trusting the universe or something. And then she reached out to me, and her program was starting like that week. And I was just like, oh, this is a sign from the universe. I'm all in. And my wife like thought I was crazy. That's at the time where I was just like going crazy. I was right in the middle of it. But it was meant to be. And then at the end of working with her, I started my business, and she was kind of helping me. And then she referred me to work with Haley and Josh. And that's how I ended up joining
Ah,
Onyx. And then I got to meet you. So
yes.
it was
It's
all
all
meant.
intricately, divinely planned out. And I like how you said, when I was going crazy, right? Because that's what they say. When you're
Yeah.
having your spiritual awakening, or when you're starting to see the parts of yourself that have just been suppressed for so long, it feels fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like it feels it's like an outer body experience. And I think that we label it that. And I don't think that we're going crazy. I think that we're just waking up. finally,
Mhm.
after being like asleep for so long and just going along with the status quo. And it's a beautiful experience. Like, if people want to call me crazy because I sound a little woo woo, people are probably like, this girl is out of her mind. Yep, sure am. Not here. I play in the ethers. Like, I'm so tapped in. And I don't think that's crazy. I think that's divinity and it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I just like to say that because people, like my wife, thought I was going crazy and she couldn't handle it. But when you start changing your perspective and changing, what you're focusing on and what you're talking about, the people in your life are like, "Who is this guy? And how come he's
Mhm.
getting stuff now? He used to be
Mhm.
fine before."
How did you navigate that? Like, how? Because y'all are married. You had your children at that point already.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yes.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then
How did you navigate that?
I left my career after 26 years being a chef, and I just said like, I was done. And lucky, my wife's pretty cool, so she like, although she thought I was crazy, like she had my back. Like I was at the point where I wanted to like sell the house and sell everything and just buy like a RV and live on the road. But that was a little too crazy for her. I'm like, I don't want to live in this society anymore. Like I don't want to. I just want to go. But I changed careers. I quit my job and I went from a head chef job to a dishwashing job until I found my sales job. And I just trusted that something was going to pop up. And then within 6 weeks, my sales job came to me. It just came to me, and I knew it was going to happen. And then it was amazing because then, after I wasn't working in the kitchen anymore, I actually had nights and weekends off. So I had the time to like do all the stuff I'm doing now. Like if I was still working in the
Mhm.
kitchen, I wouldn't be able to do this podcast. I wouldn't be able to have started my business
Mhm.
stuff. But it was hard. And I also worked with a spiritual mentor, which really helped me a
Mm.
lot when I was really going through it. And that was just another random thing that I found. I was really searching for my life path and purpose because I knew that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, and I could feel something inside of me really like pulling, and it was getting really really loud. So I decided
Mm.
that I was going to listen to that and follow it. And then I ended up meeting this lady, and she does life path and purpose reading. She's a tarot card reader, and I've never even like thought about doing anything of that. And it was just like that day changed my life. It was insane. I think
Yes.
we talked for an hour before she even flipped the first card, and it was
Wow.
crazy. She's like, I'm getting this, I'm getting this. Your guides are going crazy, and all this stuff. Like I was bawling my eyes out. It was
Oh,
it was amazing. And then that was a day that really kind of changed my life and put me on this path. And
I have goosebumps over my whole body. Like,
yeah,
my arms are zooming right now.
yeah. So that
That's
was crazy. And then I kind of worked with her for a little bit. So she helped me a lot because I had a lot of questions, and I was going crazy and I was freaking out. And yeah, so I worked with her for a little bit, and then I joined a kind of like a spiritual group of people in my area where we kind of get together every once in a while and we talk about all the woo woo stuff. So that was pretty cool. And, it was nice to have some connections and people that I could talk to that didn't think I was crazy.
yes. I
So that was
love
really
that.
good.
Community is so important. Like,
Yeah.
it's so necessary. It's you have to be in spaces with like-minded people.
Mhm.
Like, whether you're woo-woo or you're more grounded or whatever it is that you are feeling pulled to, it's important to be in community. We're not meant to be isolated and,
Mm.
on this journey on our own. So it's beautiful. What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, I love talking about it. And speaking of community too, and I think like that's the biggest thing. I'm going to plug my program now. Like for all the guys out there that are struggling on their own, that's what we're trying to do is create a movement for especially guys because they don't talk about anything. They have no one to talk to about
Mhm.
it, and we feel like no one cares. And if we talk about stuff, then they're going to hold it against us or think that we're weak or anything like that. So we're trying to really build a community and a brotherhood where it's a safe space for guys to
Mhm.
talk about all the things that we've been holding in for all these years. So
Mhm.
I think it's really important. So it's definitely needed right now.
It is. And you're
Definitely.
you're literally walking in your purpose, and I love to see it. It's beautiful because men do need that. are so many men that I know that need that kind of work and just have been taught that, men are not supposed to cry, men are not supposed to feel, they're supposed to just go, go, go. And that's a
Mhm.
form of generational trauma also. Like, what do you
Mhm.
mean you're not supposed to cry? So you're supposed to shut off a part of yourself because you need to be tough or you need to look like you have it together? That's bullshit. Yeah, that'll make you sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about my feelings, especially getting
So,
getting clean and sober. I really had to start dealing with my emotions because I couldn't bury it anymore through the
mhm.
substance. That's kind of where I went on that journey, and with mindfulness practices and being aware of my thoughts and my feelings, and that's a full-time job, and it's
Mhm.
and we think that we have to, if we don't feel good, there's something wrong with us, but we're not going to feel good all the time. So learning how to accept those parts of you or those days where you're not feeling the best, that was a
Mhm.
huge turning point for me too, because I'd be like, oh, I'm doing so good, I'm doing all this work, and then I'd have some bad days and I'd think, what the hell's wrong with me? But once I learned to accept all those parts of me, that was a huge shift for me.
I tell this, me and my clients have this conversation all the time. One in particular, she was talking about like getting through heartbreak and watching on Instagram where it's like the glow up and the highlight reels and everybody only showing the pretty aspect of healing and the sound bowls and the sage and all that shit, right? And they're not really showing you being in the trenches and, that time where you're on the floor crying at 3 a.m. because you're questioning everything. Like nobody shows these parts and it's so real in your healing journey, you will question every single thing about your life. You will be in the trenches. You will cry and people are like, "Oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to look at that." And it's like you have to. Like the
Mhm.
the the light aspect of it is cool and it's pretty and I like all of that, aesthetically pleasing shit too, but the only way through is through. Like this weekend is, if you don't mind me sharing, this weekend is Mother's Day. And I'm feeling all the emotions come up about my mom not being here. And that doesn't make me not a mentor or not on my healing journey. It makes me human. Like
Mhm.
you get to feel everything. It allows your body to release and not keep all of these things stuck inside. And that's, I truly believe that's where dis-ease comes from in the body. It's like clockwork for me. Mother's Day, my mom's solar return, and her transition anniversary. Like my lungs, because that's where the grief sits in your body. They are harbored. Like they're just taxed during this time, and I'm not like, oh, what did I do? And I'm like, oh no, I'm just grieving. Like, cool, let
Mhm.
me go through it, because the only way through is through.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
And our feelings are just energy, right? So like we need to feel it and we need to move it out. I was having a conversation with one of my clients in our call last week, and I was trying to explain to him about moving energy through your body, because it's one thing just to change our thoughts, but we have all these feelings in our body and we need to do something with that. So I was just giving them some techniques to kind of ground your energy out, or feeling into it and pushing it out through your heart and stuff like that. So that's a pretty
How How like taken back are the men in your program when you talk about stuff like that? I'm just curious. Like when you're like, oh, let's move
um,
the energy out your body.
well, it's different because so here's the deal. I started my
Hmm.
program as a one-on-one program. So
Hmm.
I'm doing my one-on-one sessions with everyone. So it's like everyone's kind of different because we're all at sort of different levels. So the guy that I was talking to, like he was really into that. He's never heard of it before, but we're transitioning to group this week. So we're at the halfway part, and everyone agreed that we want to do group for the second half, and then I'm moving my program
Yes.
to group moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's going to be
Yay.
really cool next week, like having everyone there all together. But I think
Yay.
all the guys in my program are really surprisingly like really into all the stuff that we're talking about. And I
Yeah.
don't get too crazy with it, but it's all just the basic stuff we're doing. We're not going too crazy deep into it.
Mm,
But
it's
and then from
beautiful.
there, after the program's done, they're gonna have the opportunity to join the Brotherhood Circle, which is going to be my alumni program, and that's where we'll go kind of deeper into the stuff. But
Hmm. Love the
you know,
name.
there's only so much you can do in 12 weeks, as you know. It takes, this
Yeah.
stuff takes years and years.
Yeah, I love the name. I love that. And I love the transition to group because I started RIA as a one-on-one program. And when I moved the women to group, it was like their breakthroughs and their healing catapulted because
Mhm.
not only could they see that they were not alone, like everybody in the group had went through something similar in one way, shape, or form. And it just, I don't know, the community aspect is I think it's so much better than one-on-one. One-on-one is great if you want it to be intimate, but every single women or client on the call experienced the same thing, and they're like, wow, I thought I was the only one that went through that. And to be able to be in a space with, so many other women, it's just beautiful and it's healing. I think
Mhm.
it takes it to another level.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I know the programs that I was in myself, the coaching I did was a group program. And
Mhm.
just hearing, at the beginning, when I did it, I was pretty shy, so I didn't do much talking. But just hearing other people speak about their stuff, I would have profound breakthroughs just listening to them speak about their life, because it would, something would click in my head about my life, and it would just open something up for me. So
Mhm.
yeah, really excited about that this week. Really excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, and all the guys. It was an idea that I ran by one of the guys and said, "I'm going to do it for my next round." And he said, "Well, why don't we do it for this round?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if we can change halfway through." And then he's like, "Why not? It'll be cool." So then I just reached out to them,
Yeah.
and they're all like, "Yeah, that'll be awesome." And they're all super excited. So like, I'm really glad that this one person suggested it. So
Me too. And that clears so much space for you also.
mhm.
Instead of doing so many one-on-one calls, you have this one group call a week. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it. Hmm.
it's gonna be incredible. All right, Sharice, where do we want to go from here?
Mm.
Okay. What does taking responsibility of your healing mean to you?
Oh, it means not not blaming or making it the person who did something to you's fault, like not you projecting that onto them, but you being like, hey, I went through X, Y, and Z. Yes, it was hurtful. No, it was not my fault. I wish it was different. Now what? I get to take responsibility and accountability for my healing. I can't keep being like, this person did this to me 10 years ago and they should pay for it. It's like, yeah, they probably should pay for it. I agree sometimes. And also, what are you going to do? Because you could just be mad at them, or you could take that energy and that anger and transmute it and put it into your own healing journey and really like break free from those chains that they clearly have you stuck in. So that's what I think taking responsibility for your healing means, like knowing that these are your low points and these are the things that you want to change and these are the habits that you see in your life and being like, "Oh, I'm going to do something about it," and not blaming it on your external forces or your environment. Like, yes, obviously some things are way out of your control, but your healing is your responsibility and you have access to so many tools on this beautiful internet, and you have access to so much support and so many free offerings that even if it's money that's in the way, start so you can clear out those money blocks and that energy so you could get on your healing journey. Like, I just think there are no excuses, and not like, not being like, oh, if you're in a messed up situation, it's you're not, I'm not that. It's just, if you really want something, you're going to do it. If you
Mhm.
really want to change, you're going to step up and do it. If you're tired of how your life is going, you get to take responsibility for the part that you played, because we all play a part in how our life pans out. Not the things that happened to us that were not your fault, but like, now what? These things happen, now what?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's powerful. And with your journey, has forgiveness played a role in your journey? Like, have you been able to forgive all the bad things that happened to you? What are your thoughts on that?
This question was just asked to me the other day. And I think that forgiveness, just like I think healing is a forever journey, I don't think that you'll get to a plateau and be like, I'm healed, I have no more work to do, don't talk to me, I'm floating around Mount Shasta. Like that's not how it works. So I think forgiveness is very much the same. And where I sit at in the seat that I'm in right now, there are people that I've forgiven, and there are parts of situations that I am still working on. And there are some things that happen in my life that where I sit are just unforgivable. And I
Mhm.
think that on the internet, like that's shamed a lot because it's like, oh, you have to forgive. And it's like, you can't tell me how to move at like, I get to move at my own pace. I think when volatile things were done to your body and the people in your family, that's an uncovering, and that's not a quick process. That is not okay. I understand what they did. I'm going to get over it. No, there's so many layers. There's so much subconscious trauma that you get to rebirth in this instance. And yeah, I've forgiven quite a few people, and there are a couple situations that I'm currently working on, and there's one situation where I'm just like, where I sit right now, like that shit is unforgivable. And also in a year, I'll evolve, and you may talk to me in a year, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I forget that person. I don't even
Mhm.
think about that, you know. So I think it's a journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you on about what is Rebirthinator? What does that mean? You want to speak about that a little?
Oh, rebirth initiator.
Oh, sorry.
So you're good. Um, Funny, not funny story, but my business was called the Phoenix Rising Academy initially. And when my mom transitioned, I went into like a 3 month hermit cave and did nothing. I just sat and fed the dog and kind of like lived and just was like super present in everything that I was doing. And at the time, I had hired a trademark lawyer, and I was working on changing my business name because I like in that those 3 months I had decided like, no, this is, I'm serious about this, but like I want to kick it up a notch. So I want to own like the rights to my name. And the Phoenix Rising Academy was already taken. So I had to like really think about what I wanted my name of my business to be moving forward. And I had this dream with my mom in it. And at the time, I was hanging out with these girls, and I'm telling the one of the girls the dream, and I'm like, it was like a rebirth, and she had poked me on my third eye, and she was like an initiation, and it was like. I was like, oh shit, that's what I'm calling it. I was like, the Rebirth Initiation Academy. I was like, of course. And then I thought about, like, I called myself initially like an empowerment coach, and I moved away from that. I empowered women for years, but now my clients refer to me as their trauma mama, and I am the rebirth initiator. So that's what I do to the women in my program. It's like we're going to initiate this rebirth, and you're not going to be the same person that you come into RIA as when you leave RIA. It is a complete and holistic rebirth. So thank you for asking me that. That was a cool question.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in order for a rebirth, I guess there has to be some sort of a death of your old self.
Yes, yes. The Phoenix rising is still very much symbolic in my business. I think that all the women that come in are cycle breakers. They are Phoenix risings. They're resilient, like you said about me. I feel like that is a mirror for all the women that choose to do this work because this work is not easy. This work is super confronting. Like parts of you have to actually die, and you have to be okay being like, wow, I walked around in that for 10 years, and like I lived that life. Now what is my life going to be like? Now what do
Mhm.
I get to pass on to my children, or now what do I get to express into the world? And yeah, I go through deaths and rebirths all the time.
Mhm.
I If you knew me a year ago, you don't like, and we haven't talked in a year, you we would have to reintroduce ourselves. It
Mhm.
would just it would have to happen because I've evolved, and I'm sure the person that I didn't see in a year has evolved. But yeah, so many deaths and rebirths.
Yeah, same with me. I remember with my first kind of rebirth, I had a really hard time letting go
Mm.
my old self, right? And I was in this meditation group, and it was almost, I forget how we explained it, but it was almost like, I was on a cliff holding on a rope, and the old me was like hanging off a cliff, and all I had to do was just kind of
Mm.
like let go of the rope, but I couldn't let go of it. And I forget
Mhm.
if that was meditation or what that was, but yeah, it took me a long time to kind of let it go. But like you, I've had a lot of rebirths. If you met me a year ago, I'd be a totally different person. And then a couple of years before that, I actually got a funny, not really a funny story, but kind of a story that relates to this. I had someone that reached out to me this week on social media, sent me a message, someone I worked with like 15 years ago.
Wow.
And I haven't talked to this person in a long time. And I used to be a chef, and she was, I'll just say she worked in the front of house. So she worked kind of indirectly with me. And I think we worked together at a couple places. But she just sent me this long message out of nowhere and just said, like, hey, this has been really bothering me. I wasn't sure if I should send this message or not, but I see that you're like coaching people now, and it really bothers me because of something that she witnessed me doing. What's the word? I did something to someone in the kitchen 15 years ago that she
Mm.
witnessed, and it's not sitting with her right. And she just needed to tell me that because she feels uncomfortable that I'm coaching people now. And this is something that allegedly is the word I was looking for, that I allegedly did. And I didn't deny it or anything. And like, I don't remember the incident that she talks about.
Mhm.
But it just made me reflect and just say, like, wow. And I didn't get mad at or I didn't snap at it, but I just thought, like, wow, I've come so far since then. And it just made me feel like so grateful that I'm not that person anymore, but that person made me who I am today. So I am kind of
Mhm.
grateful that I had the path that I had. But and then
Mhm.
I sent her this really like super nice message, and then I could feel her tone kind of changed as she responded to my message, because I just killed her with kindness, and I just said
Mhm.
thank you very much for telling me that. And I asked her the name of this person, and I remember working with this kid. And I reached out to him and sent him a message, and I just said, hey, I'm sorry if I did anything to hurt you or make you feel uncomfortable all those years ago. And he's like, yeah, all good, man. But it was just like a aha moment. But yeah, so that's a major rebirth and death. But I'm super proud of where I'm at now. And actually, I wrote an email about that story for my email list, which is a great story. I love that story. So it's
Me too.
in a way, I'm glad she reached out to me. At first, I was kind of just like, oh, like, what is this person doing? I had a little bit of anger for like a split second, but then I just
Which
kind
is
of,
natural,
yeah,
right? It's natural for you to feel that.
just let it
And
go.
yeah, it's natural for her to feel the way she felt. And I think you were just shining a light on something within her that she would like to express. I feel like when people do that, they're like, damn, that person's doing something that I would want to do. Or there's qualities about you that she admires, and we're not taught how to just say shit like that. And also, she needed to have a clearing conversation with you. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think maybe she's maybe triggered a little bit by, what I'm doing right now. And she thought, like, wait a minute,
Absolutely.
that guy can't be doing that. He was a dick. And also, in all fairness, I was a head chef at this place and she was a server, and I was a complete dick to her. So I was pretty, and if you're listening, I apologize for how I treated you, but that's, that's the way it was back then. And that's the way I was. And I'm a pretty nice guy, but there was times in the kitchen where,
It's a different environment.
yeah,
That's a completely different.
it was a different me when I was behind the line working all day and not sleeping and not eating it. I would get triggered. I would get triggered really,
Mhm.
really quickly, especially by servers. And I still do. My wife is a server, and I still get triggered by how much money they make with their tips and everything. And I should be happy that she's making all this money, but it still just it bothers me. But anyways,
Mhm. And that's natural. And that's taking responsibility in your healing, being like, oh, okay, I was a dick. Let me apologize about being a dick. Boom.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I love that rebirth. I love rebirth, and the death of our old self. I love that.
Thank
I love
you.
that. Um, all right. Next, I want to talk about you talk about self-expression and coming home to your true self. What has that looked
Mhm.
like for you?
So, when I was a little girl, I was just as sassy as I am now. I was very loud and expressive and just me, but in a littler form. And the people that I grew up around weren't allowed to express themselves. So instead of encouraging me, they would try to make me shrink and dim my light and tell me all the things that were wrong with me. Like I like to like scream and dance and just have a good time. Like I know this is my last incarnation, so like I came in knowing that I was going to run it up. And like I said, the people that raised me and did the best that they could with the tools that they had, they were never allowed to express themselves. So I was triggering for my aunts, my mom, my grandparents, everybody. It was like, oh, this girl is just too much. She's too loud. She has an attitude problem. She's disrespectful. And I think there were times as a teenager that I definitely was disrespectful because teenagers can be that way. And I take responsibility for that. And also, I just wanted to be my fullest, most authentic self and come home to my body and feel safe in this body that had been violated so many times, just a ridiculous amount of times for a little girl and an adult. And to feel safe in my body is, and for women to feel safe in their body is all I want because I spent years not feeling comfortable in this vessel and being ashamed of it and calling it dirty because of the sexual trauma and the sexual abuse that I went through. And it's like something because of the generational trauma that I was born into that I'm so passionate about, but I've also lived it. Like I am this way across the board. When you meet me in real time, I'm pretty much like this. And it's one of the biggest compliments that I get from Instagram. They're like, "Oh wow, you look like yourself on the internet." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks." And they're like, "But then you act like you're yourself too." And I'm like, "Yeah, girl, I had a good time." And my family still has not accepted that version of me. It's interesting. I had got a message from, excuse me, one of my aunts a long time ago, like after my mom passed. And it's interesting how people lock you into a version of yourself that
Mhm.
you are no longer, and they just want to keep you there. And instead of like go back and forth and argue, I can't explain to somebody who I am that is refusing to meet this new and evolved version of me. Like that is also still the same fun, happy go lucky, loud, I'm going to work anywhere and everywhere girl. Like I can't waste my energy on that. And that's part of, the generational healing. Although they're related to me, my piece is more important. If I have to set the boundaries where you can't be in my life because you are negative or you are refusing to meet this version of me, like that's okay. And I'm okay living with that. So yeah, that's self-expression. I saw somebody the other day, and somebody related to me that we had some discord back in the day, and she was like, wow, you look so good. And she just, her energy was like positive and I loved it because we got into it a couple times, like I said. And she's like, you look so beautiful. And I was like, girl, I look in the mirror and tell myself that shit every day. And I was like, she was so tickled by it, but then also like I could see her being taken back by it, and I was like, but that's who I am. So like I'm always going to be that. I'm not going to dumb it down for anybody. I'm going to be me. You're going to get all of me when you see me, and that's a superpower in a world that is committed to telling you to be something else. That's a fucking
Mhm.
superpower. Hmm.
It is. And good for you. And that's hard. It's hard. That was hard for me to just let my light shine and be myself because I remember I'd have moments where I could feel my light shining, but then I'd make
Hmm.
myself small again because I didn't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. And I went through that for
Hmm.
like a couple of years.
Same.
Or,
In the
people
beginning of my journey. Same.
and people would be like, "What the hell's wrong with Jason? Like, why is he so loud? Why is he so this? Why is he so that? And I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just going to be whatever I want to be. Like, I don't care anymore. But it's hard, it's hard. And my kids too, I try to let my kids express themselves, and it's hard sometimes because you want your kids to be quiet sometimes, but I don't want to break that. I don't want to break that in them. But I remember thinking when they were little, like, oh, if I did that, I would have got told this, or, if I did that. But it's hard. Interesting story. Like, we have to wrap up soon here, but I think it was New Year's Eve, some of my family members that I hadn't seen in a long time were at my parents' house, my aunts and uncles that I hadn't seen in a long time. And my kids are wild animals. My kids are not broken. They're wild animals.
I love it.
They're not broken. And some people frown upon that, but I just remember my aunt, it was driving her crazy that my kids weren't sitting still and being loud and all that stuff. But and even just being there and seeing my aunts and stuff and hearing them say that just brought up so much stuff from my childhood, because we were told to, be quiet and sit there. And we would just sit there and we'd be like dead inside because we didn't want to get in trouble. We didn't want to get yelled at.
Children are to be seen and not heard. That was
Yeah.
what I heard back in the day, and I was like, ugh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sad, but I get kids have to behave, but you don't want to break them to the point where they're afraid to be themselves. So
Yeah. I think it's beautiful that you allow them to be themselves. There was something I saw real quick on the internet, and I thought, like, oh, that's how my children are going to be. And there's this young lady, and she's running it down, and she's like, I'm going to say phrases to my daughter that my mom said to me, and I'm going to see how she finishes it. And she was like, a hard head makes a soft, and the little girl was like, pillow. She's like, when we get in the store, you better not. And she's like, still? And just the things that it was like, wow, she really broke the generational curse because, like I said, our parents did the best that they could with the tools that they had. And they were just fucking stressed out, and they did not know how to navigate in the way that we are learning to navigate now. And like, that's all I want for my babies when I have children, is for them not to inherit any of the darkness and any of the dimming of the light. I want them to be their fullest, most authentic expression of self, and for them to feel at home in their body and not be ashamed of their body. And like, that's my goal in life, is to have a beautiful little conscious babies that just live a happy life.
yeah, that's beautiful. That's a good goal. And I saw that video you're talking about. It was probably a different one, but it was a mother with her son. It was the same thing. And the mom was bawling her eyes out by the end. I should do that with my kids. That might be a cool thing. I
That
didn't
would
know that
be.
was a trend.
Yeah,
That would be cute.
that would be cool.
It's amazing,
I like
Sharice. Well, we're unfortunately we're coming at the end of our time here. Time just flies here.
I
But
know, I could just sit and talk to you forever. It's okay.
before we
I'll come back.
before we wrap things up, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners? Is there anything that we didn't cover today that you'd like to add?
I think we covered quite a bit, but I would like to say, if you are on this journey and you are lost, not broken, but just looking for somewhere to like call your healing home, like, get the support that you deserve. It is a trauma response when you want to be hyper independent and think that you can do this on your own. You will get light years ahead by being in community with people that have been through similar things as you. So that's what I want to say. And also, I'm going to plug my business. If you are a woman who has been through any type of SA, ST, or generational trauma, the Rebirth Initiation Academy may be for you. I'm sure that Jason will link all of my information for you to find me on Instagram and all the things. But if you're ready to transmute that trauma into your triumph, like, move accordingly and you'll know where to find me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. My next question was, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, Sharice?
Instagram, it is Sharice Tareva, SHARICETAREVA. And if you want to email me, it's hello@ShariceTareva.com. And my website is also ShariceTareva.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sharice. And for everyone listening, we'll include Sharice's information in the show notes below. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sharice. That was beautiful. And as always, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at transformative_pathways and also on TikTok at Jason_Dobie. You can also find my link tree in the show notes below. It has everything in one place, including my socials, my email list, and access to my private community, The Mindful Path with Jason Dobie. And just a quick reminder before we wrap up, if you haven't checked it out yet, I dropped a free tool called the 5-Minute Stress Test, a simple way to slow down and get real about how stress is showing up in your life right now. You get a clear breakdown of where you're at and a few tools to help you feel more grounded, steady, and back in control. It only takes 5 minutes and is totally free. Link is in the show notes. Make sure you go check it out when you have a chance. And if today's episode sparks something in you and you're feeling called to explore your own inner growth on a deeper level, I invite you to check out The Journey Within, my 12-week coaching program designed to help you break free from stress, self-doubt, and feeling stuck so you can live life with more confidence, clarity, and purpose. Just head on over to jasondobie.com or click the link in the show notes for more details. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you could like, subscribe, and follow us on your favorite listening platform. And if you'd like to support the show, we'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a review. It would mean so much to us and also help the show reach more listeners. And again, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
This has been the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Dobie. Tune in each week for more insights, inspiring stories, and transformative journeys. Until then, keep exploring the path to keep your best self. Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.